Welcome to Hannity, and we're broadcasting from Trump Tower in New York City, where yesterday billionaire business mogul Donald Trump announced that he is running for president of the United States. He will be our guest for the full hour. But first, here's how all of this went down right here yesterday.
Our country needs a truly great leader. And we need a truly great leader now. We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. We need a leader that can bring back our jobs, can bring back our manufacturing, can bring back our military, can take care of our vets. Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Joining us now for the full hour is 2016 GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, here we are at Trump Tower. Big day yesterday.
It's been a great building. It's been a lucky building for me, so let's see what happens, Sean. Great to have you.
You started out yesterday saying our country is in serious trouble. I agree with you. How bad do you think it really is?
Well, on every front. If you look militarily, they're laughing at us. This couldn't have happened. Can you imagine General MacArthur or any of our great generals putting up with what we're putting up with ISIS? They're just scoffing at us. They're laughing at us. They're taking our military equipment. We give it to our so-called people that we're helping, and they run and they flee. So the other day we lost 2,300 Humvees. That's impossible. 2,300. So our country is in unbelievably bad shape, economically, trade-wise, militarily. Our nuclear weapons, they don't even know if they work. Now, you don't want to use nuclear weapons, but I watched reports and I read reports. They don't even know if the phone system, the wires are 40 years old. They don't even know if the phone system works on nuclear weapons. What we're doing, we're becoming like a third world country. So we need help. And, you know, I've been telling you, and I've been saying it to everybody, politicians are never going to bring us to the promised land. They're all talk and no action.
You said that
Nothing
yesterday.
gets done.
All talk, no action. They'll never fix the country. They're not the solution. They're the problem. You said all of this. Is there anybody that is running? You're running as a Republican. You'll be competing against them. Is there anybody that impresses you? I think some of the Republican governors have done good jobs. They have taken deficits to surpluses, unemployment rates high, down to low. They've created jobs. Nobody impresses you?
Well, a couple of the governors and a couple got a little bit lucky with the fracking. You know, all of a sudden they have oil, which they didn't have. So that's sort of a little bit of a artificial inducement. I don't want to be nasty to people in my own party. I don't want to really get into that. There are a lot of people that are running that should not be running. You know that, and I know that. I know this. I built an unbelievable company, international, all over the world, released my financials yesterday, and I'm not bragging about financials. I don't want the last person that actually wants to do that is me, but I released about $9 billion of the finest real estate in the world with very little, almost no debt. A great, great company. Again, all over the world. I deal with people all over the world. I beat China in so many different things. I beat people. I win.
How did you beat China?
Well, let me just explain first. So this is the mindset that our country needs. We have people that don't have a clue. We have a president that doesn't have absolutely, I mean, he's possibly incompetent when it certainly comes to running something, namely a country. And you look at what's going on. You look at how China is beating us so badly in trade. You look at how Mexico, what they're doing to us on the border, what they're doing to us in trade, the way they're taking all of the car companies and they're all going to Mexico and they make cars and they send them into this country. Well, Mexican workers are the ones doing the work. And yet we're buying the cars in this country, no tax, no nothing.
And Detroit has lost half its population.
And Detroit is totally
bulldozing
dying.
Neighborhoods.
Detroit is dying.
Yeah.
And you just say, why is this good? Where is it good? They don't have a clue, Sean. So I love my company. I love my family. They're all saying, Dad, you know, your whole life is going to change. I love my life. I love what I do. And you have to love what you do to do it well. But the fact is that it was, for me, it was time. I cannot stand by and watch the gross incompetence of running something like our country's not going to be here. We're not going to have a country. You take a look at the southern border. We have guards standing there. We have border patrol. People are walking right in front of them into the country. And believe me, and I'm all for. I love Mexican people. I have great friends from Mexico. They can't even believe what is going on and what they get away with.
You said Mexico's not our friend. You said you would build a fence. Nobody could build a better fence than Donald Trump.
A wall.
A wall. And you said that basically we become the dumping ground for the world, that they're sending people here that we don't want. Some people got critical of that. It's not about...
A little bit critical. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm saying this.
You're talking about illegal immigration.
Hey, if I were doing Mexico, I'd be sending the killers, the drug dealers, the rapists. I'd send them here. Why not? Why do they want them? Now, it's not only coming from Mexico, by the way. It's coming from all over South America, Latin America, probably coming from the Middle East. Who knows? I mean, why don't they just come right through the border? We do nothing. So I meet some Border Patrol people about 2 weeks ago, and I say, how bad is it? They say, Mr. Trump, you have no idea the kind of people that are coming.
I've been down there 10 times.
Oh, it's brutal.
I've seen it up close and personal.
Now, it makes sense. Mexico's not going to say, you, Sean, and you go over. They don't want that. They want to keep their people. Look, what's happening to our country, and you use the term, I use the term, we're becoming a dumping ground for the rest of the world, not just Mexico, for the rest of the world. It's got to stop.
Let me ask about the concept of being presidential, transitioning from somebody that basically you say jump and anybody working for you will say how high and they will do it immediately and you're able to get things done. You know, the wheels of Washington grind so ever so slowly.
Correct.
How do you make that transition?
Well, it's a transition that, believe it or not, I've been in for many years, because when I do things, even building this building, it was supposed to be a 13-story building. It's 68 stories. That was New York City politics at its height, at its most sophisticated. All over the world, I deal with governments. In this country, I deal with governments. I mean, you can sit up on my office. Governors are calling me. Senators are calling me. They want my support. They want everything. I've been in politics all my life. The system can work. Our system is broken. We have a president that doesn't talk to even his own party. You know, he doesn't talk even to the Democrats. I know the Democrats.
That's scary, right?
I know the Republicans. He's not talking to anybody. So then he'll write an executive order because he can't get people to do what he wants them to do. So he writes out an executive order. We really do have a broken system. I have worked in the system for many years, and I've been very successful at it.
Right. Do you need to, you're such a big, dynamic personality. I would watch you walk through this building. There are crowds. I've been on the streets of New York with you. Donald, everybody's calling your name. You get into Twitter fights with Rosie O'Donnell. Would that change in this environment?
Oh,
in other words,
it would. I mean, look, when I fight somebody, Rosie's a bully, and she bullies people, but she didn't bully me. In fact, I was very proud. She said actually
that was more fun.
That was a big mistake that she made when she took me on. The fact is that China is a bully to us, and they come out with statements, no, it's fair trade. It's not fair trade. They send their stuff here, we send over there, we pay tax, and we pay tariffs, and we pay all sorts of things. It's not fair. What they do to their currency and manipulation makes it impossible for our companies to compete. What's going on with China, what's going on with Japan, what's going on with Mexico, what's going on with every country. I'll give you an example. Saudi Arabia makes $1 billion a day. We're protecting them. Why aren't they taking care of us? Why aren't they? And you mark my words. You know, I predicted the Iraq war better than anybody. I said in 2004, check it out, Reuters, don't do it, you'll destabilize the Middle East, and the bad guys will take over the oil, including Iran. Okay?
There were bad guys there, in fairness, too.
No, the bad guys, they were bad anyway.
Yeah.
But ISIS took over the oil, and so did Iran. I mean, Iran now is meeting with Iraq to merge. Yeah. You see what's happening. We spend $2 trillion, thousands of lives, wounded warriors, and now Iraq is over in Iran trying to work out some kind of a merger. It was a terrible thing. Once we did it, however, we should have stayed there at least. I mean, the mistake that Obama made was really just getting out. But I will say this. We are a whipping post. We are a laughing stock as a country. We're not respected anymore. And that's why I decided to run for president, because I don't want to take it anymore.
You're a Republican. Let's say you didn't win the nomination. You wouldn't go third party. You'd support the eventual nominee.
Oh, so many people want me to go third party. No, my inclination would never be.
You want to be a Republican.
I would.
You would support the Republican.
I'm a conservative Republican.
But you're in this to win.
I'm in this to win.
Is Donald Trump in any way going to be any different on a campaign trail, knowing, look, you saw the New York Daily News today. They want to take you down Meaning there are
news
people.
About the
There are
it's a
people.
failing newspaper. You know, they're
It's
trying
being
to sell
sold,
it.
right.
Nobody wants to buy it. It loses like 25, 30 million a year. I love that stuff. I love seeing bad newspapers fail. And that's a bad newspaper. I like to see good. Look, New York Post was fantastic. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Daily
Totally.
News, they want to sell, so they do a caricature. But the Daily News is such a failing enterprise. I love seeing it. I love it.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll get very specific. We'll talk
Good.
about ISIS. We'll talk
Good.
about Putin. We'll talk about China. We'll talk about the economy. Things are just getting started. Donald Trump will be here for the entire hour. And coming up, we'll ask him, how will he fix President Obama's foreign policy failures? That's next as we continue, and much more straight ahead.
I will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. And we won't be using a man like Secretary Kerry that has absolutely no concept of negotiation, who's making a horrible and laughable deal.
All right, that was Donald Trump yesterday talking about how he'd deal with Iran if elected president. We continue now from Trump Tower. If you're president and Iran is on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon, what would you do?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be there. I would certainly right now double up and triple up the sanctions. I mean, we take the sanctions off. We're actually paying them hundreds of millions of dollars. We're releasing funds to them. And they probably can't even believe it. And I remember the person in State Department, Harth, she's saying, well, we don't want to complicate it. We don't want to have one thing that has nothing to do with the other. We're paying them hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, tremendous amounts of money during the negotiation. Why would you do it during the negotiation? You wait. We take off the sanctions. I would do the opposite. I would double up and triple up the sanctions. They don't want to negotiate. I have a feeling it's like me in a deal. I wrote The Art of the Deal. Sometimes you don't know if you want to make a deal. It's called tapping. You tap, tap, tap. You tap them along. Right. They're tapping us along right now. Did you ever see a deal take so long? This deal has been going on forever.
And it'll be extended beyond June.
It's a very bad deal for our country.
Here's a question I want to ask you.
And we're not negotiating from strength.
They're the number one state sponsor of terror. They're fighting a proxy war against Israel and the Saudis simultaneously. They said in the middle of these negotiations that the destruction of Israel is not negotiable. They were chanting death to America, and they were yelling at John Kerry, our Secretary of State, and they're still at the table with them. And you're right. They'll get a $50 billion signing bonus to build more weapons.
And they're getting
How
it
do
now.
you analyze the mindset of a president that would even sit down with them?
Well, I call him the 5-for-1 president. We get Sergeant Bergdahl, a traitor. They get 5 killers that they desperately want, and leaders that are right now on the battlefield trying to kill everybody, including us, okay? A 5-for-1. Who would make that deal? It's the same thinking. You know that. It's different, but it's the same thinking. We get Bergdahl. They get 5 guys that they want. So you have to double up, triple up the sanctions.
But if they're on the verge, you would take it out. If they're on the verge.
Let me explain before you get there.
Okay.
Because certainly you wouldn't want to do that unless it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
You cannot let them have a nuclear weapon.
Under any
That I can say.
circumstances.
Under any circumstances. You cannot let, from the standpoint of us and from the standpoint of Israel, you cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. I believe they're right now delaying everything because they're doing and they're developing. You know, once they have it, we can't talk the same way. It's a whole different ballgame. But I believe they are tapping us. I believe they're doing a lot of things. Because I say to myself, how can it possibly take this long to make a deal? Mm-hmm. And you remember the last time I was with you. 1 day, 2 days, maybe a week. This is going on forever. It's going on forever. They have these long delays in between. I'll say this, it's a terrible deal for us. It's a terrible deal for Israel. It's a deal that shouldn't happen. And Sean, we're negotiating from weakness. Their negotiator goes back home and they celebrate him in the streets of Iran.
They laugh at us.
Obama makes a statement and they call him a liar. They say that's not the deal. And it turns out that they're right. We have people that are rank amateurs. And Kerry, who's a nice guy, he's not a negotiator. And then he goes into a bicycle race at 72 or 73 years old, and he breaks his leg.
Let me talk about your foreign policy experience. You talked about that you think you'd be able to get along with Vladimir Putin. Have you had any contact with him?
Yes.
Explain.
So I was there 2 years ago. We had a tremendous success with the Miss Universe contest. I own Miss Universe, Miss USA, all of that. And it does great. It's on NBC, but that's okay. But it does fantastically well. And 2 years ago, we had it in Moscow. And it was a tremendous success. And I got to meet everybody.
Do you talk
I got
to
to
him?
meet all, I don't want to say, but I got to meet all of the leaders. I got to meet everybody was there. It was a massive event. And let me tell you, it was tremendous. We can get along. Let me tell you, Putin truly hates Obama. He thinks he's terrible. He thinks he's arrogant. He thinks he's just terrible.
Did he tell you that?
I don't want to say. He hates Obama, and Obama hates him, in all fairness.
What would you have done about Crimea and Ukraine?
I would have put us in a position where we're respected enough that maybe it wouldn't have happened. Let me tell you what I also would have done. Germany and all these countries, Germany's doing a lot better than we're doing. Isn't it their battle more than ours? Why aren't they more involved? Why are we fighting so hard? And all of these countries in Europe are sort of like, well, okay, we'll keep taking the oil, we'll keep taking the gas, we'll keep giving money. What is it about us? We're so far away. We're fighting for. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'll tell you what, I would make sure that all of those countries that have a much bigger stake than we do, why aren't they more involved? You understand what I mean by that?
I understand what you're saying.
Why isn't
it's
Germany,
in their best interest.
Why isn't Germany saying to us, come on, we have to do something?
And if you were president, you would pressure them to do it.
Well, I wouldn't pressure Germany, frankly. They should be pressuring us.
Yeah.
Germany and the European countries should be pressuring us to help.
Because this is their problem.
We're pressuring Germany. Why aren't you fighting? What are we doing?
Let me ask you.
Look, the truth is we don't know what we're doing.
The biggest threat, obviously, right now is radical Islam. We saw what happened on 9/11, not far from this building of yours. You've talked about you have a strategy to deal with ISIS. You say you don't want to tell anybody.
I would rather not, but I'm going to.
Wouldn't it help the country?
I would rather not, but I'm going to. And the reason is, I say it, look, when I watch Obama get up and say that in 2 weeks we're going to attack here, in 2 weeks we're going to do that, we're going to have boots on the ground, we're not going to have boots on the ground. He tells everything.
He says he doesn't have a strategy.
And I think of General Douglas MacArthur and General George Patton, these great generals, they're spinning in their grave. Here's a guy telling everybody what we're doing, whether you have boots on the ground or not. Let's say we're not going to have boots on the ground. You shouldn't say it. And let's say we are. You shouldn't say it. Let them guess. All right, so I see it. I would rather not say, because if I won, I'd rather not have them know. But here's what you have to do. ISIS is tremendously rich because they have taken the oil that I say we should have taken. You remember, I've been telling you that for 3-4 years.
I agreed with you at the time.
Okay, take the oil. We're going out of Iraq. Take the oil. Give the families of the veterans and the families of the soldiers that died there and the wounded warriors, give them millions of dollars each. It's peanuts compared to what we're talking about. I said, take the oil. Everybody said, not everybody. The stupid people said, don't do that.
Wait, this was about paying for their liberation that we gave them.
Look, Iraq doesn't even exist. Iraq is a mess. There's no Iraq. Nobody's proud of Iraq. By the way, it's not that the soldiers are not brave.
Would you tell Obama what your ISIS strategy is if he called?
I would absolutely. I wish they'd call, but they don't call because they're not smart people.
He said last week he still doesn't have a strategy. He said 10 months ago he doesn't have a strategy.
So I will tell you what they should do.
What?
ISIS is tremendously rich. They're rich. You know why? Because of the oil. They have the oil. That's why they're rich. They're building. No, do something different. They're building a hotel in Syria. Can you believe it? ISIS is building a hotel. They're in competition with me now. They're building a hotel. They have so much money. You bomb the hell out of the oil. Don't worry about the cities. The cities are terrible that they took away.
Shut off the finances.
You knock and you kill them at the head. Now, somebody's going to do that. And the problem is, I said it now, and I'm glad I said somebody has to say it. But one of these Republican guys is going to say, what a good idea. Now, in 4 weeks, you won't remember it was Trump. But I'll tell you what, because I think I would be as good. I think I'll be the greatest jobs president ever. But I think I'd be just as good.
You were president today, you'd take out those oil sites tomorrow.
I would knock out that oil. And tomorrow. When you get ExxonMobil and you get these great oil companies, they can rebuild that so fast.
We got to take a break, all right? Coming up, we have lots more with Donald Trump. We'll talk about his plans for the economy. How do you get 93 million Americans back in the workplace? How do you get 46 million Americans off of food stamps and 50 million Americans out of poverty? And then later we'll get to some of your questions that you have been sending on Facebook and Twitter. All that and more as we continue.
We're going to be thriving as a country. Thriving. It can happen. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that. We have people that aren't working. We have people that have no incentive to work. But they're going to have incentive to work. Because the greatest social program is a job. And they'll be proud, and they'll love it, and they'll make much more money than they would have ever made. And they'll be doing so well, and we're going to be thriving as a country. Thriving. It can happen. I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that.
As we continue for the hour, we're joined by 2016 GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. You, in your speech yesterday, mentioned something I talk about a lot. There are a lot of Americans suffering.
Right.
93 million out of the labor force, 46 million on food stamps for 40 months or longer, 50 million Americans in poverty. You say you'd be the greatest jobs president. Let's get specific. How will you create those jobs?
And by the way, our gross domestic product was just announced. We're less than zero. It's unheard of.
Well,
we're
negative
less
growth.
than zero.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on is unbelievable. So, what's happening? Other countries have taken our jobs. China has taken our jobs. Mexico is the new China. They are killing us on jobs. Japan, you look at what's happening with the cars. I mean, and I jokingly say, when was the last time you've seen a Chevrolet in Tokyo? You don't see it. They're sending millions and millions of cars, and we do nothing. We get nothing out of this. So what I would do is I would renegotiate trade agreements. The trade agreements are horrible. They're one-sided. The other and I'm not just talking about those three countries. I'm talking about every country. Everybody makes money. We're like the big, dumb bully. We have incompetent people running us. We are the big, stupid fools. I would renegotiate trade agreements. I would make our country so rich, so fast. We have rebuilt China. Just remember that. Now, I have the largest bank in the world in this building, a floor of this building. They're from China. They like me. And I like the people from China. I just don't like that our leaders are not smart and that the Chinese leaders are much smarter.
If you become president, you'll inherit 20 trillion in debt, 100 trillion in unfunded liabilities.
Tremendous problem.
All those unemployment, poverty numbers I gave you. So would you balance a budget? You said you wouldn't cut entitlements. You said you wouldn't cut the military. You said you'd increase support
I won't
for
cut
veterans.
Social Security. It's unfair to people. No. And here's the difference.
That's their money.
You know what? I'm the only Republican who said it. Then all of a sudden Huckabee said it. But the problem is Huckabee doesn't know how to do it because he doesn't know where the money is. I do. Because I'm really a good businessman. And you see that from my statement. You see that from what I've built. Nobody knows how to do this.
How
I know
do you
how to
balance
do it.
a
We
budget?
have to take it away and take it back from all of the countries that have just ripped us, and they're just tearing the money out of our pockets. We have to bring jobs back to our country. We have to bring manufacturing back to our country. We have to bring our money back. We have tremendous potential in this. But you know what, John? If it's not done soon, if we go another 4 or 5 or 6 years like this, we're never going to be able to bring it back.
Would you insist on a balanced budget as president?
I would insist on it relatively soon. Right now, we're so far under that you can't go too quickly. But I would absolutely insist on it relatively soon. And I would make deals that would be so good and fast. The other thing is, I know all the smart people. I know the smartest guys on Wall Street, guys you've never heard of. And I also know guys that you have heard of who are totally overrated. I see guys in your show, I know them all. And I say, he shouldn't be on the show. Another one that, but it's one of those things. I know the overrated guys, the underrated guys. I know the best. We would have the greatest, we have the greatest negotiators in the world.
Would you be able to get 50?
We use politicians. We use diplomats that got their job because they gave campaign contributions.
Would you be able to get 50 million Americans out of poverty?
I would create incentives for people to work. People don't have an incentive. They make more money by sitting there doing nothing than they make if they have a job.
You take the incentive away.
We have to create incentives that they actually do much better by working. Right now, they have a disincentive. They have an incentive not to work.
You would insist for food stamps, welfare, any assistance that you have to work for?
Well, you could start looking at things like that. And actually, Bill Clinton wanted that. A lot of people wanted that over the years. A lot of Democrats, frankly, wanted that. A lot of liberals wanted that. The problem we have right now, we have a society that sits back and says we don't have to do anything. And eventually, the 50% cannot carry, and it's unfair to them, but cannot carry the other 50%.
So you become president. You talked about new trade deals. You talk about the importance of balancing a budget, not cutting Social Security entitlements. How quickly can you get 46 million Americans off food stamps and 50 million Americans on poverty? Give me the 4 things that you would do immediately to jumpstart the economy.
Well, it's actually not 4 things.
5 things?
It's not a question of things. It's a question of incentives. We have to create incentives. We have to restructure our tax system so that people create incentives. You can do zones. You can do lots of different things to get people to work. We have to change. I mean, we have a very massive change coming up because this country cannot sustain itself. It just can't go. You know that. You've been preaching that for a long time. We are right now the highest taxed nation in the world. And you could actually say by far. We spend more money because of Common Core in Washington. We spend more money on education than any country in the world, and yet we're 26th. That means 25 countries that spend far less. Some of them spend 10% of what we spend and less. These are better in terms of education than us, and we spend. There are so many things that you can cut. There are so many things. I'm building one of the great hotels in Washington, D.C. right now, right on Pennsylvania Avenue, the old post office site, which is amazing that I got it because I got it basically from the Obama administration. Nobody gets that one, but maybe I'm a good negotiator. Who knows? Actually, they did a good thing. It's going to be a great hotel. But I really became familiar with D.C. and the kind of waste and the the jobs. Look at the Department of Education, where they're telling people from Iowa and other places and New Hampshire how to educate your children. There's so much waste, and we have to stop it.
We'll take a break. We'll come back more with 2016 GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump as we broadcast from Trump Tower in New York City. Stay with us tonight on Hannity.
Politicians are all talk, no action. Nothing's going to get done. They will not bring us, believe me, to the promised land. I watch the speeches of these people, and they say, the sun will rise, the moon will set, all sorts of wonderful things will happen. And people are saying, what's going on? I just want a job. Just get me a job. I don't need the rhetoric. I want a job.
Welcome back to Hannity. We continue for the hour with 2016 GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump. All right, short segment, quick answers. Okay. Let's go through some social issues. You are pro-life.
Yes.
Rape, incest, mother's life,
yes,
exceptions.
Exactly.
Okay. Gay marriage.
I am traditional. I am for traditional, and it's a changing format. But I am very much for traditional marriage.
Colorado marijuana.
Well, I don't like what's coming out. I mean, if you look, I'm all for medical marijuana and help, but what's coming out is some really bad things are happening in Colorado with respect to people. So I would have to look at that very, very seriously.
States' rights versus the federal government intrusion?
Well, I think so. But by the way, I just want to go back to the marijuana. A lot of bad information is coming. You know, a lot of people were all in favor of it, and now all of a sudden they're saying it's having tremendously damaging effects to the mind, to the brain, to everything. So it's a big problem.
What about the rights? New York City, almost impossible to get a concealed carry permit. I happen to have one.
And I have one too.
Okay. It took a lot of death throats to get that.
Very hard.
Pretty much.
And yet, a lot of people out there have them and they don't have permits, okay?
They don't obey the laws.
It's a problem.
Should that be...
Well, first of all, I'm a huge Second Amendment person. Yeah. Something's very interesting that happened, Sean. The two prisoners that escaped, you have people with houses up there that were against guns.
Now they're for them.
And now they're so happy they have guns. They're sitting there, and one woman said, I was totally against guns. My husband was for them. It was very funny. And I see her on television. She said, now we have a gun on every table.
Yeah. So,
you know, there's a good example.
Do you believe climate change is real? Is a science? Are you convinced?
I'm not a believer in man-made. Look, this planet is so massive. And when I hear Obama saying that climate change is the #1 problem, it is just madness. And by the way, it started as global cooling. I mean, we went to global warming, global cooling.
Now it's just climate change.
Now they just call it extreme weather.
Yeah.
You know, they've now reduced it to extreme weather.
Let me ask you about your some of the top-rated competitors in the Republican. Okay. First thought that comes to your mind, Rand Paul.
A really nice guy. I mean, I've gotten to know him. I do like him a lot. He called me. He wanted to meet, and I do like him. I disagree with some of his policies, but that's okay.
Marco Rubio.
I think he's an overrated guy. I think that I have much better hair than he does. I think that I never really met him. I saw him once quickly going on a stage, but I really do think he was very disloyal to Bush. I think he was unbelievably, because Bush, by all accounts, was his mentor. Florida's my second home.
Sure.
And Bush, by all accounts, was his mentor. And I think he was extremely disloyal to Bush. And if you can, I will ask you to ask me about Bush next, because I watched your show last night.
Yes.
And I thought it was horrible when he said, a dear friend. a dear friend. You said Marco Rubio to Bush, and Bush said, a dear friend. That's politics. See, that's what I mean. They're all talk, they know. Believe it, he's got to hate him. This was not Marco Rubio's. He's a young guy.
What do you think of Jeb Bush, putting aside the Marco issue?
I think he's probably a nice guy. I honestly don't. He looks very unhappy to me. He doesn't look like a person that wants to be doing this.
Scott Walker.
I know him very well. He came up to see me 3-4 weeks ago. He gave me a plaque. And I like him a lot. The problem is Wisconsin is having a lot of problems. I mean, they're doing not well. And there's a tremendous amount of debt being piled up, and they're having a lot of difficulties. So
Carly Fiorina.
Again, I don't know. I never met her, and she looks very nice, but she got fired viciously at Hewlett-Packard. I don't mean like a little bit. You know, business is my game, and I watch and I study this stuff. She got fired viciously at Hewlett-Packard. Then she ran for the Senate against Barbara Boxer and lost in a landslide.
Rick Perry.
And then you go out and you run. I think he's such a nice guy. I mean, he's actually somebody that when you're with him, it's much different than his persona.
You're like that. Do you know that? You know,
yeah, but hopefully the opposite way.
No, in the sense that I think you're a little more quiet, introspective, in person, alone.
Well, it could be, but I think Rick Perry, probably
a little bit, right?
Actually, I'm a nice person. A lot of people don't know that. You know, I give a lot of money to charities. I love good things, but I will say this.
I want to ask you the most important.
Rick Perry, nice guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a chance.
Okay. Now, when we come back, I have the most important question to get to. Hillary Clinton, and if it's you up against her or any of these other candidates, how would you beat her? Okay. How do Republicans beat her? We'll ask that when we come back. Also, we'll get some of your questions for Donald Trump as we continue from Trump Tower, New York City. It's Hannity. Stay with us.
Sadly, the American dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again.
All right, welcome back to Hannity, and it's time to ask 2016 GOP presidential candidate Donald Trump some questions about Hillary Clinton. All right. 57% of Americans do not find her honest and trustworthy. Do you think she's honest and trustworthy? In the past, you've donated money to her.
I doubt it. I mean, look, you look at what's going on and you see what she's done between the emails and the foundations and all of the money that comes in and the speech money, and then all of a sudden lots of good things happen for the people that give over the money. So I would say, look, I'm an intelligent person. I'm somebody that went to the Wharton School of Finance and did very well. So you would look at it and you would say,
would Americans elect somebody with that lack of trust and honesty?
When I see it, it's going to be a competitive race. I can say that. It's in a way it's amazing. I think many of these Republican candidates, and I won't mention which one, I don't think they have a chance.
Do you view her as a third Obama term? You've heard?
Oh, it is. It's going to be a third Obama term. It's going to be. And I sort of laugh when I hear her talking about income inequality, and she's taking in all of this money. And I know where they live, and I know, they live phenomenally, and the money pours in, and they talk. Now, she's gone very far to the left because she doesn't want Elizabeth Warren to come in. She doesn't want other people to come in. She's got enough problems with Sanders, but she's really going left. But I don't think that will be the end case, and I think she's going to start going a little bit more once she looks like she's going to get the nomination. Hard to believe in one sense, because I really think, hey, if that were any Republican with the emails where you delete after getting the subpoena, you get a subpoena from the United States Congress and then you delete everything, I think it's called like jail time.
This is the interest that she had a subpoena, she deleted 30,000, then wipes her server clean, then we're finding emails that Sidney Blumenthal are handing in that she was supposed to have handed over back in 2012.
And this is what bothers me about the Republican politicians.
Oh.
It's dead. It's a dead issue. They don't even bring it up anymore. Explain to me, why don't they bring it up anymore? It's like a dead issue. You don't even hear about it.
Can you name one specific thing that she's accomplished all these years she's been in the public eye that have made people's lives better?
I hear the question all the time, and I see other people trying to answer it, and you can't answer it.
I'm having a lot of fun with it because I was playing the Jeopardy theme behind people. I said, all right, name one specific accomplishment of Hillary, and she's a champion of
Her biggest fans, and I've watched on different shows, her biggest fans are asked that question. They can't answer it. They're sitting there like,
That's hilarious.
One person said, she's a woman.
Yeah.
Okay? That was the best answer.
What do you think of it taking money from all these countries for the foundation? And they have atrocious human rights records for women, gays, and lesbians, and she wants to be their champion.
Well, it's a total conflict of interest, and it could be illegal. But at a minimum, it's a conflict of interest.
Well, if they're taking $26 million from Sweden, she's Secretary of State for the foundation, and they want an exemption so they can continue to do business with Iran and not be part of the sanctions, and she grants it.
If that's a conservative Republican doing it, they're gone.
Jail.
It's jail.
How would you deal if you're the candidate with Republicans are sexist, Republicans hate poor people, Republicans want to throw Granny over the cliff,
just gotta
they're
go
racist?
I'll tell you what, I happen to think that this is going to be an election based on competence, not personality. Somebody said to me, do you think you have a good personality to get? I said, I don't know. People like me. You like me. I mean, people that know me like me. But I said, I'm not sure it's important this time. I think it's going to be based on competence. One thing I do is create a great society, create jobs. And I think that wins the election.
One Facebook. Does Donald Trump expect to work well with Congress? This is from Maureen Drews.
The answer is yes. All my life I've dealt with politicians. I know politicians better than anybody. And honestly, if you can't deal with a politician, there's something wrong with you. The fact is, Obama doesn't work hard. He doesn't deal. He doesn't deal. He signs executive orders.
He doesn't even talk to his own party.
You can work with politicians, including politicians on the other side.
We'll take a break. Our final moments. Donald Trump makes his final pitch to you when we come back from Trump Tower. Straight ahead. All right, welcome back to Hannity. We continue with Donald Trump. Oprah Winfrey, would that really be your choice for vice president?
She's a friend of mine. I was on one of her last shows with my family. She honored me the entire show, the last week. But, you know, George Stephanopoulos, who's actually a really nice guy, he asked me that question. And everybody thought he was kidding when he said it. And I was kidding. And everyone says, oh, he wants Oprah to be. Number one, it wouldn't be for Oprah. But I do like her a lot. But, you know, that was done in the form of like a little sarcasm and a joke. And I said, I'd love to have Oprah. Let's go. Because she is a friend of mine. But obviously, that's not for her.
All right. One last question about the new environment that you've entered. It's unlike any deal you've ever done before. You will have access to nuclear weapons. You'll have your finger on the button. Are you ready for the onslaught, the avalanche, if you will, of criticism that will come your way?
You know, I've been a very public person all my life, for whatever reason. While I've been in business, they say I'm the best known businessman. I wrote The Art of the Deal, which was the #1 selling business book of all time, with The Apprentice, which became #1 and has continued to be a tremendous success. So I've been in the public eye, and you know, when you talk about the nuclear button, the ones I'm worried about are the other people on the other side that have the nuclear, but don't worry about me. Worry about these maniacs that are trying to get nuclear weapons. We have to keep them, and some that have them, we have to keep that away from these people. That's really going to be, and that would be actually the better question.
For every candidate, we've given them the last minute to make your pitch, why you want to be president and what you'll do as president. It's all yours.
Well, the reason that I want to be president is I want to make America great again. It's very simple. That's my whole theme. That's my whole concept. We have tremendous potential. The world is ripping us off. China is taking advantage. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our money. They're taking our manufacturing. They're then loaning the money back to us and we pay them interest. That wouldn't happen with me. Mexico is a disaster at the border. People flowing through, and they're taking us economically. Japan, everybody, we're a laughingstock. That wouldn't happen under President Trump.
And you want to get Americans back to work.
We're going to make America great again.
All right. Mr. Trump, thank you. Good to see you. Thanks so much. All right, that is all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We will see you back in studio tomorrow night.